Everyone, and welcome to this week's Take Charge of Your Life discussion, where we talk about how to live healthy, live empowered, and live free. Our version of mind, body, and soul wellness. My name's Tish Taylor from Growth Centric Living. I'm a mindset trainer and a personal transformation guide. And this is my co-host, Roberta.
Hey everyone, wellness seekers. I am Roberta and I am a holistic health practitioner and also a personal transformation specialist and really focus on, like Tish said, that mind, body, and soul total transformation because we know it's entirely possible and it really is our path to living, fully is to have that complete healing in our lives.
So, Roberta and I are both certified elite mentorship trainers. We studied under our mentor, whose name is Peter Sage. For those of you that aren't aware of who he is, he's a human behavioral expert from the United Kingdom. He's globally recognized as a motivational speaker and has a deep understanding of self-mastery. He's spoken in over 63 countries and has dedicated himself to empowering individuals like us and all the rest of his students through us through personal growth and transformation teachings. So our agenda here for our discussions is to show you a clip of his and then break it down into our three tips that you can use and then therefore take into your life based on how to live empowered, live healthy, and live free.
Thanks, Tish. Yeah, this week we've been talking about last week and then this discussion also on relationships. So last time it was our relationship with other people. So trying not to get mired down in goop, what we call goop, the good opinion of other people. And so this discussion is going to be on our relationship with time. And that is the name of the little reel that we're going to listen to.
One of the most dysfunctional relationships that you're likely to have is not a relationship with an intimate partner, but a relationship with time. I see so many people stressed out, I don't have enough time, as if you're able to go to the shops and buy 4 hours on special offer for 2 hours and 30 minutes. It doesn't work that way. As soon as you try to commoditize time, you're on the back foot. And if you're going to a time management class, I've got news for you. You cannot manage time any more than you can manage the current of a river while you're swimming in it. No, we all have the same time every day. So instead of trying to shift your focus to mastering time, try mastering your priorities. Try mastering your focus. Try mastering your relationship to time, and you'll start to understand that that anxiety of time scarcity starts to disappear. Now you're functional when it comes to your relationship to time.
So important keys in there. You can't manage time. You can't buy more of it or trade it like it is a commodity. And so I had to laugh there when he said about the time management courses because I for sure have taken those and not just discredit them at all, but maybe they are named incorrectly. And it's not really about managing time at all. They're really about managing you and what you do with the time that you have, which is our key here in that you can't manage time. You can only manage your relationship with time. And you do that by managing your priorities, your focus, and what you try to fill your time with.
Yeah, like you said, managing the outer world is what we're trying to do without success, trying to fix everything or do everything on the outside of us running around checking off lists. I'm a huge list person, so I had lists driving me for years. Now I still have lists, but they don't have that same energetic drive to my life because I had to stop running after things and trying to prove that I was good enough with the time. At some point, my system crashed and my brain crashed, and I kind of had like a nervous breakdown. And it was time to then, find a new relationship to time and how I was really going to navigate my life.
So I like what you said there, and it fits right into like our mindset piece here in that it's not that lists are bad. It's about how we feel about them or what our thoughts and the stories that we're telling ourselves around those lists, right? If you feel like you're too busy and you don't have enough time and have this giant list of things to do, right? You're developing that scarcity, that anxiety of time, like Peter called it. that there's not enough and I have all of these things to do. But really, all of those lists and the what I must do, this is an illusion. We're tricking ourselves into making ourselves feel like, we don't have enough time. And therefore, because we have to do all of these things, a more empowering mindset is to think about how we all have the same amount of time in a day. And I'm sure that if you looked around hard enough, you could see somebody else accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish. But we need to make sure that we focus on what's actually a priority. It's not just a list because we think we're supposed to do something, but what actually matters to us. What are we spending our time with those same hours that we have in the day as everybody else?
Yeah, and it goes back to some of our other talks about, really setting intentions and being mindful of what we're doing in our life and what our focus is, what our purpose is, because we can all run around and let the things of life kind of take over and we're just running after them, where we can stop and decide, what we're going to do for our day and how much time we're going to give to something. We have that ability rather than just using it as kind of as an excuse where time is really, like she said, never the issue. It's always the priority. I have time for my priorities. That's one of my mantras I say to myself. So I don't use excuses like, oh, I didn't have time to come and see you or, with people or whatever. It's just like, no, that was my decision. I chose to do something else. So it's really a lot about ownership and then just really knowing what you want to do with your life. And I think of, what having children, if I'm rushing around all the time like a crazy person and feeling that pressure and allowing that model to be given, my kids are going to grow up with anxiety with the same model, running around, chasing after things and never feeling quite good enough. Like I had one person ask me in recovery one time when I was doing 12-step work, she said, it was the question, it was in a workbook, and it said, how do you know when you've done enough? And I literally, it just dumbfounded me. I just literally couldn't answer it. I mean, and finally, the only answer I could come up with is when I've hit a wall and I can't do anymore. That was my time of knowing that I've done enough. So it's like, yeah.
Well, and that's just it, right? We're always trying to compare ourselves to what we think everybody else is doing, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the health aspect or in the soul part. But really, the first step is noting that we all have the same amount of time. Okay, there are lots of people making their dreams come true in the same 24 hours a day that you have. The point is they're prioritizing what they really want to do, which is showing their progress and know that we all only see so many parts of everybody else's lives, but keeping that kind of perspective in it, right? So there aren't really any excuses unless you make it yourself. But all of that starts with, what do I want? Figuring out what those priorities were. And this has been a guiding light for me in just deciding, what things I put into my schedule based on what I've decided my priorities are and what I want to accomplish. And that is very, has been like changing for me, especially just in the twist of my mindset in trying to figure out like with my kids and they have to do this and I have to be here for this and trying to decide what's actually a priority, what actually matters to me, and then deciding how I spend my time based on that with this mindset shift of I can't change anything on the outside. I can't change how many hours are in a day. I can only change what is a priority and what I choose to do with the time that I have.
Yes, and how we show up everywhere really reflects what's going on inside, like you said, our inner world, and how if I'm letting the outer world dictate everything in my life, then I'm not being the star of my movie again, as we talked about in some of our earlier discussions. I'm priority, I'm enough, and I deserve to live a functional, balanced life, not a crazy life. And sometimes, like I said, we're just running away maybe from some maybe discomfort or some feelings that are painful. That was another reason that I stayed busy was to, if I stopped, everything would come rushing in. And so I was always, one of the comments we use in our recovery work is we spend our whole life running from our pain. And so using time as an excuse is a really good buffer to not have to stop and look in the mirror also. So there's a lot around this time, that we've attached to it, I think.
So our first tip in the empowerment stage here or realm is to take some time, put it in your schedule, and map it out where you can figure out what your priorities are And you can do that based on asking yourself a couple questions like, what do you really want to accomplish in your life? What are your goals, both short term and long term, right? What do you want to be spending more time on? Who do you want to be? What does that identity look like that you're trying to develop? And all of that comes through spending time working on those skills, like all of our other discussions and what we sort of been talking about here. And what are the big things, the things that really matter that you want to spend your time on, and making sure that those things are in your schedule first.
Yeah, getting off that hamster wheel, going nowhere, just that consistent every day running ourselves into the ground and burning out. That was my story for several years. And one thought I have is we are meant to fulfill our purpose, and the universe will support us on that journey. It's not that we have to strive and put in all this time to get there on our own. And that's why we're running. We just have to stop and allow the universe and other things around us to happen, to support that journey. But yeah, just to take a deep breath and just, take some ownership of where we're spending our time, what we're giving ourselves to, because that's which leads us into the health realm, which if we don't stop to give ourselves some time and some downtime, to stop and think and become mindful, we're going to end up with a lot of health issues, mental and physical. The breakdown of the brain is just as important as the breakdown of the body. And it's a physiological part of us that needs to be addressed. So yeah, I think we age a lot faster when we're under that time crunch all the time. Our organs are degenerating because we're not eating properly, we're not sleeping properly, most likely. We're not giving ourselves time for maybe fun or fitness or all the things that the body just has always needed, and it still needs. Like, our body's been the same since the beginning of our creation. We haven't evolved much as far as not needing certain things to stay healthy. So if we don't make time for those things, we're just making time for illness. That famous quote, right? If you don't make time for wellness, you're going to have to make time for illness. That's just a binary equation.
We're stressing ourselves out when we're like running ragged, right? And constantly trying to do more. And then we sacrifice things like our health, like sleep, or like eating properly because of these, that mindset that we don't have enough time, that, we have to do this, and we're not anchoring that to our priorities. So instead, we're actually making ourselves worse. You talked in general about decreasing our general health, but like when we lack sleep, right, our brain doesn't function properly. So, the next day at work, you're not as efficient. You can't be when you're exhausted and can't wait to get back to bed the next day. And that's if you allow yourself to go back to bed. If you don't have this other laundry list of things that you're also going to try to accomplish, like, make sure everything is spick and span and in order, and things that, may not actually matter at all in your life, but you think you're supposed to do. Same with eating. I talk, especially with my kids, a lot about how, your eating and how you eat affects your emotions and how you think, how you concentrate, your ability to sort of show up. So when we're hungry, those Mars commercials about being hangry and hey, you need it, or is Mars or Snickers? That might be. Sorry to whoever that chocolate bar maker is. Your commercial didn't quite get to me. I got the idea of it, but not your brand. Um, and just how hard that is. So we need to prioritize these things. Our health has definitely been something that I'm learning to prioritize much more because I can feel it, and the kids can too. Once you start to experiment with these things, like, what, okay, I feel a little bit crazy or I'm exhausted. What happens if I sleep a little bit more or give myself permission to do that? What happens if I put a little bit more healthy food and healthy energy into my body instead of those, you know, huge caffeine drinks or energy drinks that are kind of all over the place here? Do I feel myself function? Like, can I feel the benefits of that, which therefore, leads to making that more of a priority and pulling up that evidence to what Roberta is saying here about how important our health is, that making time for health really needs to be a priority for all of us.
Well, it makes me think of, if we're not taking time for our health, our body is degenerating. So most people live at a state what we call functionally ill. They're still doing things on the outside, but inside the body is slowly and maybe sometimes quickly degenerating and losing its optimal functioning. and then some health thing happens, or someone gets to a point of, like, oh, I can't take it anymore, I can't sleep, I can't, whatever, that I'm super anxious. Those are just all signals that the body's saying, I'm just overwhelmed, I'm not getting what I need as far as nutrition or whatever, and I'm not getting enough sleep, or the body's just giving us screaming references and symptoms and communication to try to get us to stop and take care of us. And so yeah, it's really a critical thing to consistently take care of health. Otherwise we are degenerating. It's not that one day we're just going to have a sickness. It's going to build over time, and then it'll turn into illness and disease. But it's really important that we don't take that kind of nonchalant view of the world, or the big pharma and the Food and Drug Administration, where it's just like, you go in for a checkup and you just get a clean bill of health. Well, most people don't have a clean bill of health when you look at the cells and the internal parts of the body. It's definitely losing ground, and it's degenerating and aging much quicker than it needs to in our culture. So we can step in and halt that progression, and create a new path, find a different direction.
One of the ways that I have been prioritizing my health a little bit more is working on my meditation practice. So really, it was a struggle at first, if I am being totally honest, because sitting there doing nothing felt like the opposite of being able to get things done. But it is amazing how once I sit there and make myself do it just 10 minutes a day, of, sitting there, getting in tune with my body and myself, really sets the intention for the day. It sets the feeling for the day, and I just feel that much more aligned as I move through the rest of my day. Just taking those few minutes to kind of set and be still. So there are, I'm sure, tons of tips in this health realm that Roberta can help anyone with in just improving these. And sometimes it's little steps that feel like they're minor, but have big impact on the rest of your day and your schedule.
Well, when it comes to the tip, of giving our body what it needs and really getting aligned with a wellness path, we were talking earlier, and I think it's so complex, this culture of people literally come and they don't know what to eat. They don't know what their food sensitivities are. They don't know what supplements to take. They don't know how many to take. They don't know how long to take them. They're just truly lost. They don't know where to find the right food. They don't know what's the right diet. There's just so much confusion. That's really heartbreaking to watch, because there is a very simple path to wellness. And with the testing, the quantum testing, and just having that ability to create a clear direction for people that this is what you're sensitive to, let's find new foods to replace them. Here's what you're deficient in, and creating a very specific protocol that they can look at and know exactly what to take, on any given time. Excuse me. So it is, it's truly, there's a path to wellness that's much easier than most people realize.
I think one of the things that I hear you sort of saying there is that, we need to take time to get in line with our bodies and what that needs. And, there are some cheat codes. The cheat code is you don't have to do it all by yourself. You can get an expert who can help you. And I am in awe of what Roberta does in being able to actually test and be aligned with the energy through quantum testing to test anyone from anywhere in the world. So no longer can you use the excuse that you don't know anyone in your area to help you out, right? Because you can, and there are methods of doing that from anywhere, so that you can get in tune with exactly what your body needs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the greatest gift we can give ourselves. And if we're talking time, the best thing we can do, like Tish alluded to earlier, when we don't have health, we are dragging, we're not productive, we're not showing up for work, whatever it is. There's no reason that our health should be hindering us as an excuse to, take up our time when we could take care of it better. And it's just a win-win all the way around, for sure.
That brings us into our soul realm of things, which is, our entire being in how to live free. And here we want to talk about how part of the reason why we're all stressed and we're overwhelmed with time is because we're addicted to things like perfectionism. We're rushing in comparison, comparing ourselves to other people, trying to do everything and trying to do it alone because that gives us some kind of badge of honor or something if, I did these 100 things in my day. And definitely in families, that's becoming more and more as there is some pressure from society and making sure you're making all of your own foods and make sure your kids have this and they have to be involved in this. And just so much like keeping up with the Joneses is just stressing the crap out of us. And, this is not freedom. Living by somebody else's rules in trying to pack your time with all the things you think you should be doing because society is bringing that and that you're supposed to do it alone. This is an illusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We are whole and worthy just the way we are.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah, that's so true. And once we can get to that center of allowing ourselves to just show up and breathe, I guess that would be one of our tips for health too, would be to breathe, to stop and breathe. Because I feel like I kind of held my breath almost my whole life in some way. In most settings, most of our day we're not breathing, and none of us are. We're breathing up in our upper body instead of down into our belly, which is meaning we're uptight and we're breathing shallow, and it's just it just reiterates to the body that we're under pressure all the time, and it all kind of fits together as a vicious cycle. But yeah, to stop and breathe is critical. And I think of when we're aligned with our purpose, the universe will create synchronicities to support us so that we're not doing it alone. There'll be the right people showing up at the right time. There'll be things that just turn out where before, when we're working against the grain, so to speak, and working against our own authentic path, we have more obstacles. We actually create obstacles in that realm. So it definitely is more time conducive to find out our purpose, to really, and it doesn't have to be some worldwide thing that you're going to shift everything in your whole world, but just get in touch with what makes you happy and what makes you feel really good and what you feel like you can do to contribute. And spending some time and focus to get centered on that rather than just running crazy, like Tish said, to impress other people or to prove that we're good enough, because that's an old pattern that's running from our childhood, or it's not truth. It's just something that's running us. And if we stop and recognize it, then just in the recognition and the awareness, we can often start to diffuse that program and stop it from pushing us around. It's interesting, when I was going through recovery for several years, I would tell people, and I couldn't put it into words, I said, it feels like there's something behind me pushing me all the time, like, hurry up. Like there was a literal physical feeling of somebody pushing against the back of my brain where I had a lot of brain trauma. It was like, hurry up, you're not getting it done, you're too slow, hurry up, hurry up. And it was just a relentless program running back there. It was interesting how it actually showed up in a physical, tangible way. But it was great awareness, because then I knew what to focus on to really diffuse that old energy that was just not kind, was not kind to myself and not validating.
I think to sort of add to that a little bit, if we're talking about like time and our expectations of ourselves, we tend to put time frames on when you're supposed to do things, right? When you're supposed to have a career, when you're supposed to retire, when you're supposed to do stuff. And, in a world where you live free, know that all of that is also an illusion. There is no, you're supposed to be anywhere on your own time. So, when you decide to do your growth, when you decide that health is a priority for you, when you decide to knock things off your list and that you're not going to, conform to what you think you should be doing or what somebody else is deciding for your life, that's where the freedom comes in. So if we were to kind of summarize, right, our tips for today, first you need to decide what you want, what's important to you. That's in the mindset piece, what your priorities are. Make sure that health is part of that priority list for sure, because you cannot function without it. We only have one body.
Mm-hmm.
And then, now here our tip in living free. Let's start writing those out. Let's start actually planning where to put this in. Here's where your time management course, your you management course, we'll start calling it. Tips can really come into play in mapping out how many things can I realistically fit into my calendar. I have 7 days a week. I have 24 hours a day. How long is it going to take me to do these things? And start rearranging, actively planning how to get to that dream life that we keep talking about, how you're going to make sure that the things that are a priority, again, your health, maybe your personal development, time for rest, enough hours of sleep and eating and cooking properly for yourself. How does that fit into your schedule? And then how much time do you have to do other things that, maybe you want to get done, but they're not as important to you?
Yeah, I love that. That's brilliant to focus on all those things and to bring those up, because I think too, like if we set an intention, like we've talked about in some of our previous calls, our discussions, when we set an intention, it gives our brain something specific to focus on rather than just, I used to just get up when my kids were growing up because I didn't have this personal growth, maturity, I guess, that I do now in these tools. And it was just like, wow, it hit the road running, it's like, what, here we go again, here comes another day. It was very overwhelming. And like I said, I never felt the lists ever got done, but I think making a mindful list and our mentor says to just put like 5 things down for your list and not anymore because you'll overwhelm yourself and overwhelm your brain. So really thinking about the very top 5 priorities of your day and even doing it the night before is really helpful for me. Just creating my future day, creating it and writing it down, and even throwing in some concepts and affirmations that I fully intend to take time in the morning to do a 10-minute meditation and kind of map out my day in a way that's not overwhelming, and just really give myself grace. And to be kind to ourselves is critical with this time thing. And really, like we talked about, and I'll just share the quote with this, is that so many people are rushing through their lives so they can get to somewhere they can validate themselves. If we really think that this whole time dilemma we've been in and this mindset and this excuse of, I don't have enough time, it's really what's driving it is we don't think we're enough. And we're really trying to prove something, whether it's having the right home, like you said, or something. We're just trying to really live up to some kind of expectation, which goes back to our last discussion, which was about goop, right? The good opinion of other people. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I think that concludes our discussion for today. Hopefully, you're finding our tips helpful, and we really want to empower you to, live more free, live more healthy, and just enjoy your lives. As always, you're welcome to reach out to us. We do this on a regular basis and have an offering of different courses and stuff if you want to dive into this more deeply. Otherwise, we hope that this call has given you some things to think about, that you take our tips to heart, and, one day at a time, keep living more free, more healthy, and more empowered.
Thank you, Tish, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.